Welcome to the Manufacturing the Future podcast, the show designed to help you future-proof your manufacturing operations. I'm your host, Carrie Jordan, Vice President of Product Management at Epicor. Now for today's episode.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Welcome to our show where we're talking with the manufacturing leaders who are driving the future of our essential industry. Our guest today is Peter Mann, CEO and founder of Oransi, which is a leading manufacturer of HEPA air purifiers. It's veteran-owned, it's a motor technology company with a sustainable mission, and it's based in Radford, Virginia. And I assure you, there is no dust settling here because they are growing fast. 2-year revenue growth of 122%. Peter, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Carrie. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so I understand Oransi has an origin story that sounds dear to your heart. Could you share a little bit about your background and why you started the company?
Yeah, I started this business in 2009, and really what got me interested in air quality was my son, who was asthmatic. And I don't know, like if you've ever held a baby that couldn't breathe, it, at least for me, it left a mark. And so, kind of started looking at, what could be causing that, and then what can we do to make his life better, because the medicine that he was on was a bit brutal. And so I was, thinking, is there a way to make his environment better that perhaps would reduce asthma triggers and really improve his quality of life? But, that's really how I got into it.
I feel like a lot of people can relate. Myself, I have a 2.5-year-old, so like pretty close to him being very young. When he was young, not asthmatic, but RSV. And like that same kind of experience where, you see your baby struggling to breathe, and like that can really inspire you to do something pretty dramatic. So what brought you to starting Oransi?
Yeah, that was really the impetus. Like before that, I, was co-owner of an e-commerce business, and we were selling a number of different types of products. This was in the earlier days of e-commerce. And in fact, one of the products we did bring on was some air purifiers. So I did learn the market a little bit. And then I sold my half of the business and used those funds to start this business and really just go in and try and build a brand and build some products from the ground up.
So as we're saying, the company's growing really fast. I mean, I think we're all very aware of the need over the past few years around, air purifiers. But can you tell me what you've been experiencing as far as the growth? What was really driving that growth? What some of the challenges were that you had to overcome?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the growth in the last 2-3 years is COVID related. It's just the awareness that didn't exist before. It wasn't that air quality wasn't an issue before. It's just wasn't given attention. And I think part of it's because you can't see it. Like you can't see the stuff in the air. But when it creates a pandemic, it gets people's attention. And so, we kind of grew with the market. That explains a good part of our growth, but it's also really become a competitive space in the last, 2-3 years with a number of new brands entering the space. I like to say we were doing air cleaning before it became cool, but now it's like anybody with any somewhat related appliance or brand is putting their name on, air purifiers. It's a little bit crazy to see.
How did your team respond to that?
Yeah, it was just kind of more of the same. We added some folks. It's just a kind of a pretty exciting time to be. I came, before I did the e-commerce business, I was in the computer industry, and, that was in the, 90s, early 2000s, super high growth. And so that's kind of what I'm used to. It's really around just having solid processes in place and just executing against it. It's not, anything crazy there, but I think it's just kind of exciting that it's, finally being recognized, and, people are looking to put solutions in place, to breathe better air, because it does really impact your quality of life.
When you were putting those processes in place, you had them in place, right? On this show, we like to talk through technology decisions, the kinds of technology that manufacturers are investing in order to support the business. So back to your processes, do you have technology applications in place to help establish those processes, to help communicate them, to make sure that they're followed?
To me, the software is a means of scaling and doing things efficiently. And so, in the last couple of years, we've added an ERP system. We've done a lot with CRM, all the different pieces. We've, largely do direct to consumer, but with COVID, there's been this whole B2B market that's emerged, especially with government funds. And so having a solid CRM to effectively communicate with folks and follow up has been really critical. It's just, you can't do it on spreadsheets and pieces of paper. I worked at 2 Fortune 100 tech companies and was involved there in some, and one with a very difficult ERP implementation, and it can go bad if it's not done right. And so we've kind of lived through that. That was back in the 90s. But the technology really, to me, when it's working well, it's a seamless part of your operation and really assists you in supporting your growth.
Yeah. And there's part of it that's, like you said, ERP, more in, supporting your business and your people. But with your e-commerce experience, I'm curious, do you have an e-commerce website that you use to sell Oransi to B2B or even to consumers?
We've been in a couple different platforms, but we use Shopify right now. And
nice.
I can tell you the reason is just because of the integrations. There's so much out there and it just works,
Yeah.
I worked at Dell, and while I say that, I like Apple products. And I like Apple products because they all talk to each other and they all work. I don't have to worry about it not working or syncing up.
Integrations are so important.
Yeah. And it's like, if it's not working, it's like, then you're trying to fix it rather than work on your business. And, I'd rather be spending time thinking and talking to customers than figuring out why some computer system's not talking to some other system.
So have you always had an e-commerce site, or did you add that recently?
Yeah, we've always had that. Back when I was at Dell, part of my job was developing functionality for Dell.com. So I kind of, that was 20 years ago, a little more. And so I've kind of been in this space for a while, but we started off as direct to consumer with e-commerce. And then as, you start shipping more and we're fulfilling from here. And so that's when we brought on the ERP system. And then, in a few months, we're going to start manufacturing from here, and clearly you need an ERP system for that in terms of reshoring our manufacturing back to the US.
That's great. Okay, so as you're thinking about, investing in the manufacturing processes and supporting manufacturing, continuing to scale it, what will your decision process be like?
I think we have all the pieces in place. There's still some things that are evolving. What we've done is just bring in all the different stakeholders, because sometimes you may speak with someone that's in one department, but they don't really understand the needs of what marketing needs or what, the warehouse fulfillment folks need. Or, we've put a lot of time and effort in really bringing all the stakeholders together and ensure that our systems are really meeting the needs of all the stakeholders in the company. I know with an ERP system, it can be a number of functions, but for us, it's really the core function of just the manufacturing, the sourcing, and the fulfillment side. And then, we use some separate CRM and email marketing and chat software for those functions, just because it gives us a little bit more functionality and customization to what we're doing.
Yeah, nice. I'm really curious. I feel like a lot of people will be curious as well. So everybody, we've heard so much about air purifiers, and we've also heard so much about supply chain challenges and ability to, ship product on time. Did your business see any supply chain disruption?
No, not significantly. The issue that we had, the bigger issue was just the shipping. It was just all the demand, and you're bringing in, parts or bringing in things from overseas, and it's just, there was more demand than there was space on the vessels. But, I think we planned pretty well and carried sufficient inventory and, in fact, carried a little bit extra inventory just to build a buffer in, which is not ideal. We really want to turn your inventory. But just to kind of be on the safe side, we carried a bit extra because you never knew when a big order was going to come in. You just had to have it on hand. And so, but for us, I don't really think the supply chain was really that significant of an impact.
That's great. That's great. So when it comes to shipping, do you use any real-time shipping technologies to, communicate with carriers or anything like that for delivery times?
Most of our shipments are just direct to consumer and it's small package. And so we've partnered with one of the larger, transportation companies for that. When we do LTL or full truckload, we go out and shop rates, kind of do that in the batch. And so we have a logistics person in-house that manages that whole process for us.
That's great. What would you say if you look back on, the types of technologies, be that the e-commerce website to interact with customers, maybe the ERPs to manage like financials and operations, shipping software, any of that. What would you say has had maybe the greatest impact if you could choose?
I mean, the ERP's been really big in terms of we used to ship through some 3PLs.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we have a pretty big, we have 156,000 square foot, kind of manufacturing fulfillment center here
Wow.
in Virginia. And we had worked with some 3PLs and we brought all that in-house. And so that's been pretty impactful in terms of centralizing all of our inventory and having complete control over it. And I'm a little bit of a control person. And so it's like you kind of can control your destiny if you,
Yeah.
have control over processes. And so I think bringing that in-house and we use our ERP system really for all the fulfillment, and it syncs up really well with our e-commerce and software. So I would say right now that's the key, but I think going forward, once we start manufacturing here in a few months, it's going to be really critical there, especially for the sourcing and, managing inventory and turns, because really trying to get closer to just-in-time manufacturing, I think that would be a competitive advantage for us since almost all of our competitors manufacture overseas.
So the new manufacturing facility, will that be in Radford as well?
Yeah, definitely. It's in Radford.
Oh, great. What's been the impact of the local community? I should also mention for the listeners, I'm also based in Virginia. I'm in Richmond, Virginia. Radford, about a 5-hour drive from Richmond, kind of near Virginia Tech and Blacksburg. There's Radford University, of course, in Radford. It's a big engineering area. So I'm curious, what has been the impact on the local community? It seems like a great pool for engineering talent.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I have a business partner that, we're equal owners in the business, and he's really the, engineer developer of our motor technology. And he's led all of our design, which is allowing us to really reshore manufacturing. The goal there is just taking cost out of the equation. And so, once we start up, probably the next 2 years, we'll hire 100 plus people. So I think that'll have somewhat of an impact in this area. It's a bit of a, where it's kind of interesting. It's a very engineer centered area. There's a few electric motor companies here, so it's really a lot of knowledge around motors, but we're also on the edge of Appalachia. So it's kind of an interesting
Yes.
dynamic. So this area and surrounding areas really would benefit from, bringing manufacturing back and creating jobs. And so we're really excited about, being able to do that.
That's great. It's a beautiful area. Like you said, on the edge of Appalachia, there's that New River.
Yeah, New River, it's a half mile from,
Nice.
from our,
Gorgeous. I
office.
think I'm
Yeah,
getting a little bit of spring fever, considering it's starting to get a little bit nicer out now.
definitely. Yeah, it's beautiful. I was in Austin for 20 years and saw that growth, and this is a different vibe to it.
Yeah.
It's much more nature and, kind of there's no traffic.
Yeah.
I don't have to think about when I'm getting in the car to go somewhere. It's like, I know exactly how long it'll take to get there. That's kind of nice, after being just in such a busy place.
Well, I mean, thinking about the future and bringing manufacturing back, that's very exciting, especially for the local community. What are your top priorities when you're getting, that facility all set up? What do you consider first? Is it more the robotics or whatever tools, machines you're using on the shop floor? Is it onboarding and training new employees? Where do you begin?
For us, it's been a couple of year journey to kind of even get where we are now. And it's really just getting all the pieces in place to be able to start manufacturing and shipping out the product and ensuring the quality is there. I think that's in the immediate term, more of where the focus is. And then it'll transition into the onboarding, bringing on folks. We have, a fair amount of people that are in, marketing and customer service that are scattered around the country. And I think bringing them in and having them actually build products would be a kind of a cool way of enhancing the culture and making you feel like, you really, if you can build one of these products, I think it's if you're going to market to a potential customer or support a customer, I think it gives you a bit of a different perspective in really understanding what goes into it.
Okay, as a manufacturing leader, as an entrepreneur, maybe even as a parent, do you have any advice for others that you would share?
For us, innovation is the key. For us to, reshore manufacturing, we've had to find ways to do it and still be competitive because, most of our competitors are Chinese imports and price is really important. And so, continue innovating. And, for us, the best ideas win. It's not who says it or how crazy it is, or it's just like, how do we get better? Because we have, it's a very competitive, market out there. And for us, cost is a huge component of that. And how can we continue to improve rather than passing on costs year after year to our customers?
This is great. I mean, this is a lot of great advice. Really good to get to know you and Oransi and the area. So as we wrap up, Peter, could you share the best way for all of us to learn more about the work that you do and Oransi?
Sure. Yeah. Our website is oransi.com, ORANSI.com. And Peter Mann, MANN on LinkedIn is probably the best place if anyone ever wanted to reach out and connect.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, with that, thank you again to my guest, Peter Mann, the CEO and founder of Oransi, a leading air purification company. We look forward to whatever's next. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Carrie. Appreciate it.